if you're trying to hire leaders into your organization, they're going to ask questions like, hey, Rob, what's this all about? What kind of culture are you building here? What's your vision for me in this job? And if you don't have answers for those questions for strong leaders, they're going to go ask someone else.
Welcome to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle, with your host, Rob Schultz. Rob is the founder and president of Schultz Wealth. All opinions expressed by Rob and his guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Schultz Wealth Limited. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Please refer to our website for more information.
Welcome everybody to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle. I am your host, Rob Schultz, and today I have Ross Paterson. Ross, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Really excited to have you. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah, don't tell old jokes.
Years?
Maybe 10 years.
Maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've always been so impressed with you, so I'm really excited to have you on here. For those of you who don't know, Coach Ross. Coach Ross is a coach. He's a performance coach, leadership coach, works with businesses and helping them, create performance around their teams. He has a really cool pedigree for this too. You should know that he's former Army
officer,
101 Airborne, 101st, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
A long time ago, more than 10 years ago.
It was a long time. My military background is fading into the background more and more as I get older as well.
I have a nephew in now, so it's kind of crazy. The next generation of 1T Patersons are serving in the Army infantry. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So what's he doing?
He's a sniper.
Wow.
For the 2nd Infantry Division.
Okay.
Just won best squad competition for 2nd Infantry Division. His name is Brennan Paterson. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
That is really neat. Yeah. It's a young man's game, that's for sure.
It is a young man's game, for sure. Yeah.
So let's see, from there you went to GE.
Yeah, from there I spent a little time in corporate America. Got to lead more in the operation side of things. Manufacturing is kind of where my military skills translated the best. And then eventually I kept asking for the harder jobs, and I got the opportunity to go lead a joint venture here in Texas called GE Sports Lighting Systems, right? It was kind of a startup, $20 million range, putting sports lighting systems together for everything from Little League ball fields to soldier field remodels, so everything we did all. Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you kind of got the bug for entrepreneurism.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. For the small medium business space. What I really fell in love with, it was simultaneous, corporate America was stealing my soul, right? And our values just didn't align. I had a great boss in corporate America, and he said, hey, Ross, always be looking for those people that are 2 levels above you. They're doing things you want to do next because you need to build relationships with them. And I got to this point where the people 2 levels above me, I didn't want anything to do with them,
That's a problem.
And like I was losing my zeal. We couldn't take good care of our teams and our employees, even our suppliers, because of all of the conflicting almost corporate initiatives around supply chains and cost reduction and those kind of things. So anyway.
So were you starting to see kind of the beginning of the end for GE kind of during that period?
Well, that was 2002, 2003.
They
were still doing pretty well then.
Yeah.
It was early in the Jeff Immelt days, and I don't know if I had any insight into that big business kind of thing. I was into my teams, so keep in mind, like I was not like in GE. I was in GE.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I did. All of my suppliers for that joint venture were small business owners, and I really got into the small business community in Fort Worth and Dallas, and they were the kind of people that I wanted to be like 2 years. Those people 2 levels above me now became these entrepreneur business owners who were leading their own ventures. So that was so then I started making that transition from there. Yeah.
How scary was that?
Well, I don't know. Like, I never really get scared of things. It's because I always feel like I won't be the smartest guy in the room, but I try harder than most people.
Yeah.
And I'm never really worried about failing because I've come from not much and I could start over again. I was confident when I started my first endeavor outside of corporate America was actually a nonprofit. And so I lived in the nonprofit world for about 4 or 5 years before I started getting back into the for-profit small business space. And now it's all my work kind of just meshes together in a big kind of pyramid around my purpose. So that's how it's happened. But I'm not afraid. I've been poor. I've been hungry. Yeah.
You just went in. I think some of that could be your military background, because I know that sometimes I'll tell people it's like I wasn't really scared when I just kind of jumped into this stuff, but I probably should have been.
Right. No, I think if you really, this is a true story. So when I started the coaching business, right, a partner and I bought a franchise from a woman who was not doing well with it at the time. So it's just a mindset. So as we got into the franchise agreement, there was like a due diligence period from the franchisor. They gave us hey, here's a list of all the franchisees we've sold to. I went to the top 10. Hey, these guys with multiple licenses, kicking ass, taking names with the franchise. I wanted to know what they learned and how they were doing it.
Yeah.
And my partner asked everybody whose businesses failed and they gave up their franchise what they learned and what they would have done differently. And isn't that interesting mindset? Well, 4 months into the thing, he was the marketing and sales power of our team. He just quit. He just gave up.
Because he was talking to all these people that, had bad news.
Maybe. And maybe he just, different time in his life, different risk, whatever. In the end, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. We were able to kind of reformat and have a lot more flexibility. Partnerships can be messy,
Oh, yeah.
We spend a lot of time in our consulting and training coaching model dealing with partnerships at different levels and helping people maximize
dealing with partnerships, dealing with creating leaders within companies, helping companies streamline and figure out how to win, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what you're about?
Well, I think if you take it, XM Performance, what we're really passionate about, our kind of center of our bullseye is, hey, what if we could make small and medium businesses the best places to work in America? What would that look like? Well, it would have to have a pretty dynamic leader who thought more of the business and his people in the community around him than he did just himself and his personal wealth. It would take him building a team. You got to have a good business model. I mean, if you're the best VCR repairman in the world, there's nothing XM Performance can do for you, right? It's not a valid business model, right? It's just, you can't do it. There's no money to be made there. There's got to be a business model, right? And then, hey, how do we capitalize on that, right? So part of it's consulting. Like there's a lot of professional service clients we have that are lawyers. And I don't know, they don't teach lawyers about marketing and sales in law school, not part of the process.
They almost teach it out of them, I think.
Yeah. And so somewhere those lawyers, if they want to have a bigger impact, if they want to be an extra mile business, and make their business the best place to work in America, they've got to learn how to market and sell. They've got to grow revenue past their referral network and then manage those systems and eventually become leaders, right? If the revenue starts growing up, now that lawyer's got to be the CEO and his time in the courtroom might diminish tremendously because there's a business to run now, not just case to manage. So,
and that's a big step. I mean, and I'm sure you run into that a lot. You mentioned the VCR repairman who's the best VCR repairman there ever was, and there's nothing you can do for him because he basically is self-employed, but all he did was create a job for himself, right?
Well, yeah, and there's no demand for that. That's the example there.
Okay.
There's no demand for that.
But then the lawyer, for instance, is trying to, elevate out of, the courtroom.
Yeah.
That's a big deal,
Well, and I think also the beauty, as you know, as being a small business owner, is we get to build the business. If we're intuitive enough, we can build the business we want to. There's a lot of lawyers who want to be that owner operator and they want to go get cases and try cases and just be the guy who does this thing. And that's okay, the owner operator line, as long as they have Schultz Wealth in their corner and they got a good financial plan that doesn't involve selling the business, for a big win, right?
Yeah.
And so those aren't our clients at XM Performance. Our clients at XM Performance are the ones that have a big vision, right? They want to go from here to there. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty committed to this big vision, $10 million, $20, $100 million business, whatever that looks like for them. and they have some awareness that, hey, I'm stuck here. I know where I am and it's not here. So they're aware of this big vision, we call it, and then there's a big gap between where they are and where they want to be. So we're kind of looking for those business owners who see the vision, they understand the gap. And then our best clients are the ones when I say, hey, Rob, how much of that gap is you? We need the owner who can go, it's me. It's mostly me, Ross. Can you help me
So
with
you
that,
have to
right?
have some
I have to
self-awareness.
change.
Okay.
Yeah. So some emotional intelligence about I'm the one who's got to change and evolve and grow. Hey, if I'm a great lawyer, that does not make you a great entrepreneur or CEO of a business, right? Even a great teacher, coach, consultant can do one-offs, but can I build a team? Can I grow a business that can have a much bigger impact than just what Ross can do, right? And I think that's what we do better at XM Performance than most is, hey, we can solve a lot of problems because it's not just me. And yeah.
Well, so when you're talking with a business owner and trying to help them elevate, it sounds like,
Yeah.
What are some of the common stumbling or roadblocks that you see that they have to come to grips with, that you have to have that hard conversation and say, no, it's not that everybody around you, is not doing what they're doing. It's something with you. What are some of those things that you see, those traits that have to change?
So I think across the board, there's just three things. There's three things really have to do. Number one, they have to have a strategic focus, right? They got to take all these ideas out of their head and map it out. Like, okay, this is what we're going to be. This is what we're going to be about. So some of that's around purpose and why. Some of it's around values and culture. Some of that's around a clear vision about what we want the next year, the next 3 years, right? So that's they got to have that strategic focus. The next thing that we're particularly good at is the owner has to evolve. They have to evolve from startup to foundation builder to growth guy to transition guy, right? So the owner's got to evolve to do that. And that can be quite difficult. We're not all good at everything.
No.
So they can get stuck in a few different places there. And then if you really want to have that bigger business where an exit, where a transition is possible, you've got to build the business that's not dependent on you. So at some point it's strategic focus, owner evolution, and then building the right team, to help you get it done, right? And then part of the owner evolution is letting go of a lot of things that you've always done, maybe that you love doing, maybe that you're the best one in the company at, but it's not what's going to get us to here. So you got to let that go, let other people do it almost as good as you. And the reality is they're better than you, and you're just not that damn good. You
just don't know it.
We lie loudest when we lie to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty insightful.
It's probably the same with people with their financial plans, right? Oh no, we're good. Well, let's run a little math for you, and the numbers don't lie, right? And it's the same in business. Like, I think business owners in the community are like, everything's great, living the dream. But really, hey, it's harder than they thought. And there's a little bit of nightmare in that dream, and you got to battle those things. These things.
Yeah, that trust and being able to surround yourself with the right people and then trust them to be able to do their job. I mean, that's just hard, especially right now because it's so hard to find the right people, right? What are you kind of seeing as far as people trying to build their teams right now around them? What I mean, obviously they're having challenges.
Yeah.
How are your clients overcoming some of these challenges?
In a couple of the markets we're working in Phoenix, in Texas, there's a lot of people and businesses moving to those regions because of the governments are business friendly, right? And taking care of business.
Okay.
So even though some of the economy is softening in some places, these places tend to be still very dynamic, and there's more work, then they have the right people. So the first thing you got to do is, if you have good people, keep them, right?
Yeah.
And then if you need to hire great people, somebody has to be working on that, right? At some point, we have to take some of our marketing resource, time, attention, and funds, and point that towards getting the next employees, right? And it goes back kind of to this idea of the strategic focus. If you're trying to hire leaders into your organization, they're going to ask questions like, hey, Rob, what's this all about? What kind of culture are you building here?
Mm-hmm.
What's your vision for me in this job? And if you don't have answers for those questions for strong leaders, they're going to go ask someone else.
And that can be a real challenge in a business that's trying to grow fast, like a small to mid-sized company. Because a lot of that is kind of betting on the come a little bit. I mean, you're saying, you're saying, yeah, this is where we're headed, and of course, a lot of this is coaching your clients on of visualizing for themselves what they can achieve, but also being able to communicate that and get a team excited about something that really doesn't even almost exist at this point, right?
Yeah, well, I think, if you're an experienced business owner, you're trying to grow, you've got a history, you got a track record to show them, hey, we're not starting from zero, right? So when we start trying to recruit leaders, the mistake I see a lot of times is we don't have a lot of clarity on our culture and our values and what we really want our behaviors to be. They're going to drive the uniqueness of our business. So we hire this super technician. I mean, on a resume, tactically and technically, this man is everything we need for the job. And we bring him into our culture, and he's a great leader, but he doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And so we have this, and so one of two things happen. He'll start pulling you off your culture. He'll start changing the culture. If he's a VP or executive director or something in your organization, he's going to start influencing the culture, maybe in a way that's counter to the way the founders want the company to go. So we have to spend as much time first clarifying our values and our culture and what we want, and second, making sure that's part of our recruiting and assessment process, especially for leaders, that they're going to fit the culture, or you can have real problems. Tony Hsieh, famously of Zappos, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere after the move to Las Vegas, they really got their culture clear. And in his book, Delivering Happiness, he says, I wish we had done it sooner.
Yeah.
So when you're growing the business and you need to have leaders at leadership level, if you don't have that culture piece in place, then you'll have trouble getting alignment with leaders. So, but again, you said the same thing. Hey, if we're not clear about where we're going and we can't put that into a plan, leaders ask a lot harder questions than employees do. And so you've got to have some clarity about that. You've got to have some positive, clear, inspiring communication about where we're going and what difference are we going to make. Because I think people will lean into that with you, even in the hard times. But
especially the newer generation. I mean, so you and I think, are both Gen X.
That's true.
Yeah. And we hear over and over that a lot of the younger generation is really looking for purpose within their job, more so than previous generations. Although, I mean, I've always had to have that. I mean, that's just,
there you go. That's Well, our experience is this, right? If you go back, you can go back to Dan Pink's drive in the 2000s about, hey, what psychology and science know about motivation, businesses don't do. You can go back further to the 90s and to the 80s and to Dale Carnegie. They're all writing about the same things. As a matter of fact, you can go all the way back to Ben Franklin's autobiography and maybe even Marcus Aurelius. Humans haven't changed. They need that purpose. I mean, if they want to do big things, there's some amazing research out there now. If you want to dig into it, Liz Wiseman's one of our favorites, but read her book, Multipliers. But she talks about this. Hey, a strong leader, now not a passive leader, not a gentle leader, a strong leader who can do that positively can add 50% productivity to a team that's already there. Mm-hmm. And a diminisher can likewise tear that down, right? And so learning how to be that kind of leader that multiplies, it pulls the best out of everybody, that gets that team engaged. The same. Now, the other big challenge right now is this hybrid, remote, return to office piece.
Oh, yeah.
And the reality for that is it's the same. What humans want is the same, right? They want to be loved, cared for. That's a big word, but hey, man, they want to feel like, hey, I matter here. And they want to work on something that has some meaning and some purpose. That's the human need, right? It's there. Ask anybody what they want. And if they can't articulate that, maybe they just haven't thought about it yet. So, hey, now there's a lot of different generational things that happen out there, right? There's a lot of angry baby boomers in the marketplace. There's a lot of lost Gen Zers. But I mean, I find like, if you go back and remember when we were 20, we were the same, right? What did we want?
I feel like I
kind of
changed
was. Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't just looking to make the most money I possibly could. I was looking to do something that I enjoyed, that I thought made a difference.
Yeah. And you don't know, and you changed a lot, right? How long were you in the military?
Just 4 years.
4 years, right? Yeah. So, hey, and then you changed. You went to, hey, I need to go do something else, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes we, as Gen Xers now in 2020s, we judge them more harshly than we judged ourselves at the time for being job hoppers and looking for new things. But I'll tell you that the millennials on my team at XM Performance have been top performers, right? And I've tried to bring in some guys my age, and they didn't really work out. And I found that people come into our organization, XM Performance, and they'll say, "I've never worked at a place like this before." And we're just a small boutique team, right? Serving the small, medium business space, but everybody's looking for that. And when somebody says, when they're out in the marketplace and they just say, "Hey, I love my job," somebody's like, we don't even know that could be possible. Like, we think jobs just work, but I think we should love our jobs, right? Let's make our business the best place to work.
What if you ever see this? So, founder owner started in a business with all that passion and excitement, and then just the years and different things and so forth, and now all of a sudden you're looking at somebody who's lost a lot of that, maybe due to circumstances, maybe due to a number of factors.
Yeah, it could be extended family problems. Absolutely. It could be whatever. Yeah.
What do you say? How do you help somebody like that?
Yeah, I think here's where an advisor like Schultz Wealth and XM Performance can kind of work together, right? We have to. Here's what happens. Here's the worst case for a business owner.
Sure.
They're working, they're grinding. They're like, I'm tired, and they take the foot off the gas, and then they go, I think it's time to sell the business, and they already took the foot off the gas. Now every year it takes them to find that thing, the value of that business is going down, and so somewhere we have to interrupt them earlier and start talking. Hey, what's your exit plan? What do you want to do with this? What's your transition going to look like? And the people that are thinking about that, we can help them. Like, let's start building that team, right? Because it doesn't really, in our books, it doesn't really matter what that transition is. You can sell your business. You can multiply it into another geography. Or if you're an entrepreneur like me, you can use it to fund your next big idea, right? But we want to keep this business running so that I can go do my next thing, right? Because I have 3 or 4 ideas, probably like you. Anyway, and so it doesn't really matter what you want your transition to be. You have to build your business the same way. You have to create some marketing and sales systems and processes to generate revenue on a regular basis without just the owner being involved. And then you have to start building that leadership team that can do these things without you. Maybe even put a president in place that could manage the whole thing with the right incentives to do that. So that's one thing you could do is just start building that team. Maybe in a lot of cases when we see this burnout, it's because they don't have adequate support, enough of a team underneath them. Sometimes in certain cases, I find myself just almost feel like I'm working against the clock, because we've got somebody who didn't think about it soon enough. Yeah. Now all of a sudden age is becoming a factor. And it's like, man, we need to get this done. Yeah. And if we don't, like you said, you get on the backside of that slope and you're just losing value because, you don't have the passion there. You don't have the excitement. Yeah. Yes, boy, that's tough. And the work you do there, I think, is just so crucial. And I've always liked, the whole time we've known each other, I've just always loved how important it has been to you that a business owner have purpose. Yeah. And I think you've said to me before that you really won't even work with somebody if you can't see that they have some level of purpose in what they're doing. No, we have some pretty strict criteria, right? We call it, hey, is this prospect a VGHT owner, right? So the V stands for big vision. We talked about that. Yeah. The G stands for big gap. They can see the gap. Yeah. The H stands for heart. Do they have a big heart? And there's 2 things there. Number one is, are they emotionally intelligent enough to see themselves as the cause of the gap, right? Yeah. Because for their business to really evolve, they have to change pretty significantly usually. If they don't see themselves that way, we won't get very far with it. They're like, oh man, it's my financial planner. It's these damn employees and these stupid customers. I can't help that guy, right? I can't help that guy. Anyway, the other part of heart is we like to work with people. It's more than just the money for them, so this purpose thing. Hey, in their heart, they're trying to make a difference with their business. And that looks a lot different for a bunch of different people, but somewhere something drives them more than just grow, get my cash equity, my private equity buyout and get out, right? And go live on my yacht. We're alive for bigger calling, bigger purpose than that. So we're looking for people that think like that. I love that. So VGHT. The T is big thirst. And for my rookie marketing and prospecting team, I say, hey, find an owner with a big vision and then ask them what they read this year. If they haven't read any books in the last year or 2 years or 5 years, they're just not good prospects for us. Because at some point, by neglect or with a bunch of pride, they decided they know what they need to know, right? Our best clients are already curious. They listen to podcasts. They go to leadership pieces. They're learning, and they go to industry trade shows. I mean, they're engaged. They're trying to grow. They're curious about what could happen next. And so there's this thirst. We call it being thirsty. And even sometimes we'll have a prospect come in for a whiteboard session. We'll listen to a specific problem they'll have, and we'll hand them a book like Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And they go, hey, if you'll read this book, I think it'll give you some good ideas. And, we've had clients read a book and go, where has this been? Did they write this about us?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
Well, tell me what you mean. Which part of that is really resonating with them. And so sometimes how it is. Hey, we get busy as a business owner. It's demanding on our time. It can take all of our time if we don't let it, and if we let it. And so, so that's who we're looking for. It's a small percentage of people with the right mindset. Then they have to have a business that's performing well enough. And we're not really perfect for a startup business. The bottom line is they don't have any money. They don't even know their idea is not perfect yet. They still have a lot of zeal, maybe false confidence, because they haven't really tested it in the marketplace yet.
Well, they're at that stage where their back is up against the wall, and they just somehow, some way need to get through, to get to a point where it's like, okay, now I can use some tools. Up until that point, it's sheer chaos, right? It's just trying to get to a certain point. I guess. At the higher level business, it's really looking for a transition. Yeah,
it's strategic focus, owner evolution, building the right team. In this kind of startup foundation phase, it's kind of 4 different problems. Number one is they don't have enough time, right? They're working most of the time on mostly the wrong things. They don't even know the difference between the $20 task and the $200 task, right? They don't have enough revenue, right? For whatever reason, they don't have a marketing and sales background. They'll say, oh, hey, Ross, I get all my business word of mouth. And I'm looking at their finance. I'm like, hey, man, no offense. You don't have enough business, And I'm like, hey, maybe we should learn this thing called marketing and sales. And like, and they for some reason they have some head trash about marketing and sales, and they don't understand it's a process, just like a financial planning process, just like an engineering process, right? It's just part of the business process, and they have to learn it. So they have to learn, not enough revenue. They have to learn marketing and sales. They don't get enough performance out of their basic employees. I mean, they don't know how to delegate. They don't know how to get work done through other people. They'll say things like, it's just easier if I do it myself. I'm like, oh, really? Or they'll say, I'm the only one who can X. I'm like, you're the only one in the whole state of Texas. I doubt that's true, right? Maybe there's somebody who could help you do these things.
That gets especially hard with service and professionals. Let's say professionals.
Yeah.
And what I mean by you work with a lot of attorneys.
We do have some of those.
Yeah. That's a brain thing. That's something you develop over time. What you do develops over time, and is a very unique skill that is hard to translate and to duplicate. To a certain extent, the same thing with me. So I would think that with professionals like me, for instance, that's some of the hardest stuff there is to figure out how to get us. Because I am still in the meetings, and I don't see myself not being. There are a lot of them that I'm not in now, but some of them I'll always be in. I think. I don't know.
Well, and when we look at the small business owner, the couple things we have to show them. Hey, what are the most critical things they have to work on, right? And then what are the things somebody else can do? And so we've developed this idea over time that we call it the Small Business Accelerator, or SBX, right? So we tell every business owner like you, hey, just keep track of your time for 2 weeks. What are you spending your time on? Inevitably, there's 8 to 20 hours a week where they're running administrative things and going to the bank and doing all this stuff.
Fighting emails.
Yeah, just sorting through emails, right? And so my teammate, Fonnie Gambaro, really helped me take this to the next level when she operated as my Small Business Accelerator a few years ago. And so we're really passionate about that. Now, every entrepreneur, it's not like you need a secretary or an old school executive administrator like a CEO does. We need somebody who's really the yin and the yang to who I am as an entrepreneur owner, right? And so we help
said
them
it that way
yeah.
because, we've kind of developed a team of some more yin and yang than necessarily the traditional administrative support.
Right.
Just because I think technology has evolved.
Has changed that some. That's right.
So you agree with that? Okay.
I do. And I also think like the hardest thing in my business in the consulting, training, coaching space is client acquisition. That's the hardest thing, right?
Of course.
I can go find with a very simple LinkedIn search, probably 10 consultants who are better than me at a bunch of things, but they don't have any business, And so
it's a competitive space.
Yeah. And so, but we spend a lot of time mastering that. And so, but there's a lot of just day-to-day marketing administration. You got to just keep that marketing wheel turning that somebody else needs to manage, not me. Right. And so if I just create a little content, I need somebody else making sure that's going out in the right places on the internet. And one of our best marketing activities for our business is to go do some public speaking, right? So I'm giving some value to a small business community or a professional association, and just start teaching them some leadership things, start teaching them some culture, building culture things, whatever they need us to speak on, we can do that. But we have to manage that, and then managing that pipeline. One of the things Fonnie ripped out of my hands was
that's that yin and yang you're talking about, where you just got people. You're obviously going to go usually go do that talk, for instance.
Yeah.
But you have a team that's supporting you in that, maybe even developing skills to do it on their own as well. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that part-time administrator role, people will always say, "Hey, I can't afford to add this administrative role," and I'm saying, "Hey, man, look at this. Look at how much time you didn't spend on the $250, $300 task for your business. You can't afford not to hire somebody for this." And I'll tell you, in today's world, and there are people who want to work part-time, who are probably very skilled businessmen and women, but have a family situation that limits their ability to be in a high-stress, full-time environment, right? And so you might get a very talented person who's worth $40 or $50 an hour who work for you for $25 for some freedom and some time autonomy, and maybe they can do way more than you expected. And, and so I think every time I've given that advice, hey, you can't afford not to hire a part-time administrator for your small business. When somebody does it, they always say the same thing. Oh, I should have done that sooner. Right. And they go from part-time to full-time pretty quickly. I had one realtor who was very gifted in a lot of things, particularly marketing and sales, which realtors should be good at, but she was a terrible administrator. And she called me one day and go, "Hey, Ross, I just want you to know, I hired my second administrator because now that I'm out of my way administrative and operationally, the business is growing like crazy." And I was like, "Hey," and I probably told her for 2 years, "Hey, you should hire a part-time administrator. You should hire a part-time administrator." She was not a client of mine. She was just a friend. And then she finally did, right? So so it's an important thing, and knowing what you need is important, right? Just hiring a bookkeeper might be a big mistake, right? If you need somebody to really help you with some marketing and some outreach,
and then you can do that fractionally as well.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that you don't have to do, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody who got to the $20 million business with a great buyout potential and said, "Hey, the way I got here, Ross, was I got my level 10 badge on QuickBooks." That's not part of anybody's story, right?
That's a good quotable right there.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things, I'm like, hey, somebody else needs to be keeping your books. You need a weekly cash flow report or a monthly cash flow report at a minimum, depending upon the pace of your business, right? But hey, if you learn how to read your P&L and learn how to organize a weekly cash flow report, and then somebody else needs to put that together for you, right? You need the information so you can make the right decisions, right? And not just be guessing by what's in the checkbook,
Marketing sales, going back to that, because you mentioned that you had a partner when you first started your entrepreneurial journey that was going to do all that, and then all of a sudden he left.
Yeah.
So that wasn't your forte to start.
That was not my background. No.
That was not your background at all.
No.
And then you jumped in, and now I know that you spent a lot of time talking about it here. I know I know you know how crucial that is to the success of a business.
Absolutely.
But yet that that's not what you considered anything that you were good at until you were almost forced into it, would you say? Or
Yeah, I think, if anybody's going to ask me about getting into my kind of business, I'm going to say, hey, if you don't want to learn consultative sales and get really good at consultative sales process, you should go work for somebody who's already good at that.
well, I would say that for my business too.
It's the exact same for your business. You have a very consultative process.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's very relationship capital intensive, right?
Mhm.
Hey, somebody's not going to come show you their mess until they really trust you, right?
Right,
It's the
right.
same with me.
Yeah.
It's the same with me, I mean, the reality is all of our businesses are a little messy, right?
Absolutely.
But we don't say that in the marketplace. And so we have to have a high level of rapport before somebody comes in and goes, oh, I got a mess. Will you help me fix my mess? And yeah, so absolutely. But so marketing is one thing and sales is another thing. And, there's a difference between them and you need to understand that. Even if you're going to outsource most of that as a business owner, entrepreneur, you still need to understand that process. Or a digital marketing agency will come in and they'll do all kinds of stuff and spend your money and it won't get you any kind of results, right? So you have to learn these things. You have to be competent at marketing and sales yourself so you can guide and direct the process. And if you want to transition your business, no matter what that means, marketing and sales have to be a process that's not just dependent on you and your network and your relationships, right?
Yeah.
If it is, then your business, the value of your business and how much you're going to be able to get away from your own business is at risk, depending upon your vision for that transition. So
Yeah, important stuff.
yeah. And so if anybody, I have 2 books. Like if you're a book reader, you have to read Seth Godin. This is marketing.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Just he'll teach you what marketing should be in the modern age, and we got all kinds of bad paradigms about that. And then if you don't really know the consultative sales process, one of our favorites is James Muir, and it's called The Perfect Close. And you really just need to throw all that stuff from your 90s sales stuff away. It doesn't work anymore, right? Not in the information age.
Sure.
And so we really have to have some conversations with people a little differently. But anybody can learn to. I mean, I tell people all the time, hey, when I was in the Army, I was in the infantry, right? You know who they put in the infantry? The guys who are stronger than they are smart. So if I can figure this thing out, anybody can, right?
It's a process. Yeah.
And when my marketing sales guy left, I own this franchise now. And I was only supposed to be working in it 50% of the time the first 2 years because I was still winding out of my nonprofit work. Anyway, I was either going to learn consultative sales or I was going to have to go get a job, right? And I was going to lose my initial investment in that business. And so I did exactly what I tell everybody else to do. I went to an expert. I did a 3-day consultative sales training boot camp. And, hey, it created the potential I have now. You said this earlier. You said, it's hard to reproduce us, right?
Yeah.
And it's when I have these younger teammates, I'm like, hey, I'm not holding on to all the secret answers here in my book. It takes time. I know you've had some success in your career in the past and were able to just learn things fast and become the operations manager in a very repeatable B2C business. I go, most of that doesn't apply here. Most of that doesn't apply here, right? Be patient, be persistent. You know enough, go start the conversation, and I'll help you when you get to the next level.
It
But
takes a while.
it takes time. And
It does.
then even the consulting and the training, some of our contractors and I have been doing consulting, solving messy problems for teams and doing leadership and management and marketing and sales training for decades.
Yeah.
And have a very energetic new director of marketing who wants to do that training. And she's good at the training, but she just wants to be great like I am. I'm like, hey, I can't give you the marathon plan. We got to run the 10K first, right? Let's get, you'll get there. And if we can set them up for some small wins and get them moving in the right direction, like you have with your team here, then, they start gaining some confidence and we can show them, hey, yeah, it just takes time. And then one day you're doing it. It's like, oh,
yeah, absolutely.
I just closed that deal.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, I mean, it works wherever you have so if you're going to invest in consulting or training or coaching, then where's your gap?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a skills, capacity, knowledge gap? That's a great time to enter coaching or consulting. Man, if you got a big mess around marketing or systems or a team, hey, bringing in a consultant and to kind of look at some of that can be very valuable. And sometimes it's just training. Sometimes like, hey, I don't know the difference between marketing and sales. There is a difference between marketing and sales. A question I ask an entrepreneur all the time will be, hey, if you don't have enough revenue, how do we know if you got a sales problem or a marketing problem?
Yeah.
And it's a good question, right? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, I get all my business word of mouth. I'm like, okay, how many appointments did you have this month? 2. I'm like, okay, is that enough to sustain your revenue? No, it's not. Yeah.
Well, eventually, I think we've talked about this before. Eventually, your success will drive you to the point where you absolutely have to find new ways to create revenue.
Absolutely right. I mean, our personal network's only going to get so far.
Absolutely.
We can get referrals. We get referrals all the time, but we can't grow a business waiting for our clients to give us referrals when they think about it.
Right.
And I don't know about
level, you have to have something else.
Yeah. And so, and again, when you want to transition that business, that bigger business, you have a transition plan. You got to have a marketing and sales system that works, that's repeatable and reproducible, and people and process dependent, not owner dependent, right? Mm-hmm. And so, it takes a while to get there, especially in businesses like ours, where they buy Rob or they buy Ross, and somehow we have to interrupt that.
You're exactly right.
To get them in the process. And part of it's just, finding some people who are bought into our purpose enough where they'll be patient to learn some of those things, right? But it doesn't come easy. We've had several men, unfortunately, who haven't lasted in some of those business development roles inside of my company. And we've had some women who have come in and just really done amazing things because they were more patient.
Do you think some of that's been kind of a patience issue, or?
I don't think so. So I'll own pieces of this, right?
Of course.
Always. Yeah. I assume sometimes that if I show somebody how I do it, then they can just do it. And I oversimplify a very complex process. I forget I spent 10 years mastering consultative sales,
I've done
right?
that so many times.
And it's so simple for me, and it just takes a long time to learn these things. And then sometimes there's some things I know. There's some things we're committed to in our business, doing things a little differently. And I had a sales guy, an old guy who was 10 years older than me, and I said, hey, we're not going to do that. I don't want you to do that. Never do that again. Here's how we're going to do it. And
that was hard for him.
Yeah, there's somebody at your door.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Well, what about if? Well, I can just think of times that I've screwed that up in the past over the last 28 years or whatever it may be. Yeah, 28 years I've been doing this, and I've had some incredible people on my team that for one reason or the other, it just didn't work out.
Right.
Trying to learn from those obviously is I think very important. Second of all, I think that like you said, that patience has to be there a lot of times, as well as I think in some cases it wasn't the right timing, and I think there was confidence as well. I think a big part of, I just have this on my mind right now. A big part of being a leader, I think, is instilling confidence in the people within your team that you want to build as future leaders. Yeah,
I don't know. Like I struggled with reproducing myself more in business development than consulting and training, and I think some people won't put in the time. Right? They think like there's this easy magic shortcut that I have that I'm not showing them until they get to a certain point, and I just don't have it. Right? It takes time to learn. It takes time to master consultative sales. I think sometimes in my business, maybe in yours too, like the people that I'm recruiting, they want to do what I'm doing. They want to do the delivery and the consulting and have the relationship I have with our clients. And their path to do that is, hey, you gotta build your client base to do that. And some people want to do the work I'm doing without building their book of business. Mm-hmm. And so I've changed my model a little bit. The business development's harder to reproduce. I can reproduce myself in some delivery. So I just do some contracting work, but I don't make them an employee if they don't want to go. If they want to do some business development.
Cool. So you can kind of let them kind of set their pace, I guess you could say, or set their course a little bit.
Well, I just pay them they're kind of a gig economy guy. Yeah. We have a lady, a woman, a very talented executive coach. And I'm not really good at like head and heart alignment problems. Like, hey, I got some baggage in my past that I got to unpack before I can really be a successful CEO. And Andrea is so good at that. Every time we bring her into a company, she'll coach the one executive we were looking at, and then they're like, oh yeah, we need her to help this guy and this girl and this guy too. She's that good, right?
That's a real need and a real talent too. That's cool.
And so she's built her business around several clients like XM Performance, where we all give her some work. She doesn't want to do the marketing and sales, but she's really good at what she does. And so she's built her business that way. So I can just call her in kind of like my hired gun for this and this and this, right? But I don't have a monthly cost for her. It's a project-based cost for her, right? And I have a leadership trainer who's also very good. And so the frontline manager and leadership training, some executive coaching he does. And he's trying to build his business kind of from the beginning. It's his first year. So he needs some income, And we're not going to be competitors. He's really focused on the medical space, and he's a great facilitator. So he's doing two things for us. He's delivering a lot of training, but he's also coaching my coaches up a notch, right? Which frees me up a little bit. So
it sounds like you've got a lot of really exciting things going on.
It's a fun season for us, right? We had some health setbacks in the fourth quarter, and everybody's back.
Yeah,
everybody's back from that. So it's been
almost tried to kill yourself on a bicycle. Yeah,
these bicycles. I was trying to stay healthy, stronger than smart, right? Yeah.
So we talked about kind of building leaders, building folks within our organization into a team to go forth. I know when we've talked before, a lot of what you do sometimes is identifying where where maybe within a team, there's a bad seed, there's some alignment that's not quite there. Those are hard gigs, but I know you're good at them because we've talked about it before. Can you help some of the folks that are listening out there kind of understand where you come from when you're looking at a team and you see kind of a piece that's not in alignment?
Yeah, probably one of the most difficult things for business owners, especially big heart business owners, is they really care about the people on their team.
Absolutely.
So much that we can be accidental diminishers, right? That's what Liz Wiseman calls them in multipliers. You're an accidental diminisher, right? So I'm so kind to my team that I don't push them past things. I don't give them any tough feedback.
It's kind of a radical candor thing too.
It's the same idea, right? And so instead of me holding Rob accountable to give the results he's capable of, I say it's just easier if I do it myself, so I don't give Rob any feedback. Now, spread that out on a big team dynamic, and if somebody's not carrying their weight on a small business team, the team knows it, right? And if the entrepreneur is ignoring that, that can be a pretty high risk thing, because if somebody's not contributing, and the balance, then we just keep loading up our superstar with more and more work, and there's no consequence for not doing the work. Guess who's going to leave first?
Yeah,
the superstar is going to go, hey, I've seen enough, because they can, right? Somebody's probably already calling them,
right?
Offering them some jobs and sharing some vision with them. Now, I think there's a few easy questions to ask, right? And we call this the critical personnel inventory, right? So the first question is, hey, how is this employee doing in their current job, right? A C is meets expectations, a B is above expectations, and A is, hey, they rock and roll. A D is, hey, not really making it, right?
Yeah.
And so you grade your employee on that first question. And then the second question is, what potential does this person have to take on a next level leadership role or 2-level leadership role above them, right? And so that's a little different question. It's not how they're doing now. It's what's their future potential in a leadership role outside of just being a technician or individual contributor. So you grade those two things. And it's okay. It'd be okay for me to have a new employee who was a C+, hey, they're making the grade. C's are not bad in this grading system, right? C's good. His employee shows up every day and gets their job done. That's a C, right? Meets expectations, right? Now there might be a C that's got a D potential. I had an office manager. She was an A, but she was a D potential. She didn't want to do anything else. She wanted to do this job. She was at the twilight of her career, and she didn't want to do any leadership roles. Matter of fact, if we were overwhelmed, I couldn't give her an assistant for a project because she didn't know how to delegate and get work done to them. So she could be an A and a D, or you could be a C and an A with potential, right? A new employee who's just getting started might have a lot of leadership, might be learning fast, but really not above average yet, right?
So this gets complicated in my mind a little bit, because obviously if we have somebody that's doing what they need to be doing, and maybe that's all they can do.
And maybe that's all they want to do.
Maybe that's all they want to do. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's okay.
I think so.
Yeah. We have room for those people on our team.
Absolutely we do. Okay. And And I can see the other way as well. That's where you have that patience that you were talking about earlier, where you've got somebody that you need to develop over time. They need to have patience. You need to have patience and stuff like that.
Yeah. So question 3 and 4 get to that, right? So question 3 is, hey, if they won the lottery and came in and gave you resignation, how would you feel? So how would you feel if they left on Friday?
A good question.
It's a powerful question, right? and then your question should be, if that's a key leader, who can replace them, right? If they left, who's ready to replace them, right? Because part of our job as we grow is, hey, this person might be the one we promote, but who can take their team leader job or their manager job? Who's ready for that? We have to be thinking about that multiple moves as our business grows, right? And then the last question is, let's say we got a D, a C minus, and if they left, we'd be pretty happy. Well, the ultimate question is this one. If I had known today, if I know what I know today, the day before I hired this person, would I still hire this person, right? That's the ultimate question. If your answer to that question is no, well, we need a strategy for helping them find their next thing, right? That's not just walk in and fire them, right? Because I think if we love our employees, part of what we got to do in our small business is help them find their next level of potential if they want to, teach them, move them towards something that they're excited about, right? Because then they come and they bring their engaged self to work, and I don't have to motivate them. The next thing is we have to always be thinking about, hey, what do they want next? What do they want next? There might be somebody who has been an all-star player, and maybe he's getting ready to start a family, and he wants to be able to coach some baseball for a few years. He says, hey, I would like to stay right here for the next 3 or 4 years, Ross, if that's okay. I'm like, hey, that's okay with me. Now, the reality for this guy is, hey, if we keep growing, I might have to hire somebody, and you're going to work for them and not me. Now,
there are consequences.
There are consequences, right? And some people can handle that, and some people can't. I'm always challenging my clients, the business owners. Hey, you got to develop leaders, right? You got to start leading through leaders and doing those things. And we have a whole piece of our business that we developed just because our clients didn't know how to do it, so we started doing it. And now it's 30 to 40% of our revenue is doing leadership development for frontline managers and executive leaders inside of our clients' businesses, right? And so we've gotten really good at that, right? And so good that our clients will say, I hired a new manager, when's your next class? And that's good marketing.
That's good.
And that's what we want them to think about. Hey, we're the ones. They don't have time to do that, and we do it so well they can do it. Now listen, guess who else needs to learn how to lead at the next level? You do. That's right. The owner has to be able to do that. Do that too, right? So they got to stop doing things.
That's why I think it's so critical that you have that alignment, that passion, that vision, and your heart's still in it, and all that stuff. Because you have to continually grow. Yeah. Otherwise it's curtains.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky, right? Hey, if the owner can't evolve past a certain place, growth can become treacherous to that company.
I would think so.
They can grow to a point of destruction, right? And where things start falling apart, right? But hey, staying flat's risky too. Staying flat's risky too. So
in some ways, it's riskier.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just I think about a lot of the time I end up in an engagement and I feel like I'm like, man, I wish we were having this discussion
3 years earlier.
3 years earlier or so. I feel like it's so crucial to catch somebody when they're still excited, still growing, still learning. All those things that you talked about that you're looking for in a client are the same things that we're looking for.
Right.
And if we've gotten to the point now where we're kind of done, that's a treacherous spot to begin.
No, yeah. If they lose, this, business ownership's hard, right? It's demanding.
Yeah.
It can be all-consuming if you're not careful. And man, if you get tired or you get burned out to the point of being wrecked, mentally, physically, hey, I can't keep up anymore, and the whole business is dependent on you, that is a treacherous position, right? That business will fail if the owner breaks down, right?
No, it's a very scary position. And, that's what we're always trying to protect folks against. Yeah. And that's why I think it's important to, go seek help, whether that's, help from your side, Coach Ross, or our side, or whatever it may be, and continually develop in those directions.
Yeah. I think it's usually a combination of both, right? It's I'm not in the financial planning space. I'll be like, hey, you need to have a good financial planner on your team. If you don't have one, let me refer you to one, right? And
Yeah.
and they need to be somebody who understands business ownership and managing those kind of real assets that are different from a full-time school superintendent who's got a heavy salary and a lot of retirement things. It's a different strategy, right? Different skill set in the financial advisor, I think.
Yeah, and you know this, that we doubled down, a few years ago and decided that's what we wanted to be
Right.
specialists at.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been working with business owners my entire career.
Yeah.
It's just that we actively really, really doubled down just a few years ago because there are special considerations.
Yeah. And either you specialize in that or you'll have a financial advisor telling you, oh, well, make sure you maximize your mutual funds first. I'm like, well, instead of a real estate investment at a low spot in the market, my playbook says maximize your mutual funds first. Like, okay, well, I need to find somebody else.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Understands the way business owners invest, which is very different.
It is different,
no question. Yeah.
Well, and business owners can get trapped too. They think their business is worth a lot, and it may not be because the whole thing's dependent on them. There's even some larger businesses we've encountered where, if something happened to that owner, the business would fail, right? They haven't built it yet enough, right? You got to build it. You got to be intentional about that. But man, it's beautiful.
There's so many traps. I mean,
it's beautiful. There's always when I was 33 or 34 and I was losing my soul at GE, I was looking for an opportunity to go do something that was a little more, enriching here.
Yeah.
And I think, other people are looking for that too, right? And that's why you got to have that strategic focus because you can sell that, right? We have to be the recruiter for our small business too.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get top talent to take a little pay cut and come work on something that's got a little more soul to it. You better have a good story to tell, and
be excited about it.
And be excited about it yourself, right? And have it's not a story to tell. It's not marketing. It's not fake. Hey, let me tell you a story about a client that we radically changed their potential.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's fun. And I think if you're going to be a business owner, don't do something that can make money. Do something that you're excited about because that's contagious for your team.
And you will.
And it's attracted to your clients. And then you will make money most of the time, unless you're a VCR repairman, then you won't. Yeah.
So we talked about health a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You back riding since your accident?
I am. I have some limitations by my vice president, who's also my spouse, and my team have asked me.
Well, I definitely joked with you that I figured by the time you got out of the hospital, your wife would have had all your bikes sold. But apparently that didn't happen.
No, we were it was a little it was a little all consuming. So several of my family members had to come help with that situation, and so praise the Lord, we're almost completely recovered, right? So it's pretty thankful. So we're just trying to. I have fitness. I think is part of keeps my brain clear. I solve more problems when I'm working out for clients. When you stop working on it, your brain still works on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something about that alignment. You go talk to any strong leader who's had a long career. Fitness is part of their equation. Reading is part of their equation. There's some things that they do, right?
They
hang around smart people. Yeah. They have a constant source of fresh ideas, right? They're not trapped in their own world. They're in their own thinking. So I'm thankful for that. I am riding a little bit. We've had a little funny little marketing ploy. It's my side of marketing, right? It's called cycling is the new golf, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a couple of extra bikes hanging around. They're just for somebody who says, "Oh, I can go for a ride with you, Ross. I'm not very fast." I'm like, "Hey, come on." Anyway, so we do that. I'm going to stay off the mountain bike and off the trails for a year.
Yeah,
that's the deal I made with my wife and family. But I'm still riding a little around Grapevine, South Lake.
Okay, all right, that's good. Well, you ought to.
It's good. It's mental health for me. Like when I can,
it's important.
Yeah, there's a beautiful sunrise on Grapevine Lake this morning. I was out for a little ride.
It was pretty this morning.
Yeah.
Nice cloud
cover.
You don't get to go see that unless you're out in it.
Yeah. And my team doesn't really want to talk to me at 6 a.m.
No, maybe not.
For some reason.
Maybe not. But you had a real brush. You had a serious accident, put you in the hospital and all that.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, that, for any of us as business owners, when we have something real serious like that happen, it makes us think about, do we have all the things in place? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right agreements? And all those things for our business and our family and our finances to be able to continue without us.
Yeah.
Did you have a little moment there with all that?
So our life insurance is good. Financially we're in good shape. My wife can still earn plenty of money.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was real. I really do care about my employees, right?
Yeah.
I don't romantically love them, but I love my team, right?
Yeah.
And they're amazing. And so, the reality for us was, hey, Ross and Fonnie were down for a significant part of the fourth quarter, right? So it was a little sketchy. We got in a little hole financially, but we were able to dig back out of it. But hey, if it had been worse, how do we make sure we can take care of those people? You can do some things with some key man insurance and all those things. You guys know what to do with.
I mean, we call it a lifeboat drill.
Yeah.
So we try to get everybody to mentally think about, if I go down with a disability or if I die or whatever it may be, okay, let's pretend like that just happened and let's just go through everything and make sure it's
Run
all
some
good.
models, yeah.
And then every once in a while, because I've had it too, you have scary moments where it's like, oh, wow, I am out, or I could have been out.
It could have been my day,
Then when you think about it in that context, there are usually a lot of really good solutions that come out from what we decide for our business and stuff.
And business owners got to have those things in place. You could really leave your family in a bad spot. Yeah. Yeah, definitely your employees, right? Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. And I think, just take some time. Hey, it's hard. Hey, when you're in startup mode and you're battling to build the foundation, you don't have any of that, right? You're lucky you have some life insurance, right? So you can do that.
Yeah.
Later, you need to be
it's a
planning
little different. Yeah.
You can plan a little differently. For sure. Yeah. And hey, that's where you got, I think the hardest thing about being a business owner, there's nothing that's so complicated we could never figure it out, right? But the complexity of being 6 inches deep in 147 places is where you can really be overwhelmed and not having a good lifeboat drill in place, not knowing anything about marketing and sales, not paying your taxes right for 5 years in a row and then getting a big tax bill, right?
Yeah,
these things are, the business owner needs some advisors around them, a good CPA. Same as with a financial advisor, I would tell a business owner, hey, get a CPA who just focuses on business owners, right? And the unique things, right? You probably need a good financial advisor for sure, right? To make sure not only that we can take care of things, but that we're thinking about an exit strategy at some point well before it's time for the exit strategy. And of course, we'll say, hey, if you have a big vision and a big gap and you big heart and big thirst, hey, you ought to come see XM Performance too, right? Because we want to help you expand the impact of your business.
That's awesome.
And we've been watching these, what a business owner might experience once as he grows his business. We've literally seen hundreds of times at this point. And, our experience, our research is deep, most of us are the same, it's just crazy. People think, oh, well, what do you know about my business? I'm like, well,
a couple of things.
Bring it. Bring me your messiest problem, right? I tell business owners that all the time. Here's the open invitation. Come to our office, come sit in front of the whiteboards, put your messiest problem on the table in front of our team. And if we can't give you at least 3 good ideas from that, then don't ever need to come to see us again. But what if we could solve your biggest, messiest problems in 30 days or less, and now you can go start working on the next thing? That would be probably worth because I tell people all the time, hey, the whiteboard session is free, and if you don't get anything out of it, you get your money back. So
that's a good challenge right there. I would say, for everybody out there, kind of build your team, whether that's internally or whether that's with your advisors, and take Ross up on his challenge here. You definitely, if you feel like there's some stuff that could be better, talk to folks about it. Talk to the coaches about it, and see what you can get done.
I think in the end, the overwhelmingness of being a business owner can really get you isolated. So it may not even be a business coach, man. Go find some other entrepreneurs who are early in the stage with you to do that. When I first started my for-profit business, there were some friends of mine who had made the decision to get in the same franchise in some different locations. So every Friday we got on the phone together for an hour. Hey, what's working for you? What's working for you? We were trying to figure out this marketing and sales thing. So every week we got to go share, I tried 10 things that didn't work, so you guys could take those off your list. But every once in a while, we got one that did work, and we could start making some progress. But it's encouraging. It was hard. Having a peer to encourage you was a good thing. And hey, when I needed to close the gap on sales after my partner left, I didn't have any choice, right? I didn't have 10 years to figure out how to be a consultative sales guy. I needed to figure it out, and in like the next 6 months, or I was going to be in big trouble. Right? So, yeah.
Yep.
Well worth the investment. Right?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, very good. Well, Ross, it was good having you on today.
Fun to be here.
Appreciate
the invite.
Appreciate it. It's always great. I got a ton of insight out of talking to you, as I always do.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you and maybe have further discussions along these lines, what's a good way for them to contact you? If you'll just say it out loud, and then I will put it in the show notes.
Sure. They can just email me.
Okay.
Ross@xmperformance.com.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Easy. That's
pretty
good.
easy. And, hey, I have a SBX who watches my email for me. So they can send the email right now. They might have an appointment before I get back to the office. We'll see what happens. That's how it goes, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Stop reading your email.
That's great. Yeah.
But send me one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody joining us today. We try to put this out every other week, give you some good content for those of you who are business owners, looking to improve, looking to grow, looking to succeed, looking to transition. This is the place for you. You can subscribe, and we'll just end up in your email.
There you go.
And we really appreciate everybody tuning in today. Take care.